what are the benefits of going to mediation?
Yeah, so mediation fits along with divorce really well because it is private, for one. So you're talking about personal and private issues privately, not in front of an audience of strangers listening to your business. It's also voluntary. So you choose it and you choose your mediator. And then once you get going, you decide the outcome on the issues. So ultimately, you've got a very personalized, individualized settlement agreement that fits you, your family, and your future. And then the third benefit is that it costs less. You can really control the costs by working it out in mediation, so that it doesn't spiral out into hundreds of thousands of dollars, which has been known to happen. You can keep it contained.
So once you're on the other side of divorce, you understand these things, but when you're about to start the process, you don't know what to do. I think
Yeah.
people's first move is usually, I've got to go hire a lawyer. Is if you're like to go into mediation, do you still hire a lawyer? Do you skip that part? How does that work?
You don't have to hire a lawyer, no. So every case is individual and different. So for some folks, yes, calling a lawyer first off is the best thing to do. I always say get legal advice, but you don't have to have a lawyer to mediate. Most of my clients actually are pro se, which means they don't have lawyers. They might go get a consult with an attorney, but they work it out themselves, knowing what is best for themselves. And then sometimes along the way, maybe you start mediation, but then you bring in an attorney at some point, always okay. And then if you do start with attorneys, you're likely going to mediate eventually anyway. So it falls into a couple of different places, but you absolutely can start with mediation without lawyers.
And so, what does that conversation look like? It's usually one person is initiating the divorce and maybe has done some preparation. How do you talk to clients about like how to pitch this to your, current partner, soon to be ex? What does that conversation look like?
Yeah, so a lot of my clients come to me together. They're just super amicable. They're ready to do the divorce. They're not happy about it always, but they're accepting of the divorce. And so when that happens, it's really quite a beautiful thing. But that is not always the case, no. So what I ask folks to do is make an appointment for a consultation where we chat about what mediation is, what mediation isn't, how much it costs, and then it's up to their spouse to also do the same thing, to make an appointment and chat with me. So I get to talk with them each one on one, individually from the very beginning. And all of that's confidential from the get go. And then they decide if they want to opt in to mediate with me.
So, both parties are using the same mediator in the case?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah, it's very
exactly.
interesting because it's a different. I know a lot of divorces end up in mediation, but it seemed like you have a lawyer, they're dealing with the mediator, they have a lawyer, the expenses are
Yeah.
going through the roof. I didn't know there
Hmm.
was a
Hmm.
quicker, less expensive way to go about it if you just get right to it.
Yeah, for your not super complex cases, mediating without attorneys can really work well. Mediating with attorneys can really work well. It's really if it falls into that amicable area, which doesn't mean you always agree on everything or you're coming in already agreeing on everything. That's what we mediate. It just means that your intention is to do this as amicably as possible.
And what does that look like when I guess there's a lot of preparation and then it's go time. Is that over in a
Yeah.
day, a week? What's the experience generally like?
So the way I do it is several meetings stretched out to give people time to do their homework. So yes, there's a lot of prep work on the front end. Gathering financial information is the biggest chunk of homework. So we've got that at the very beginning to look through and talk about. And then there's always more. There's always some follow up. Well, let's figure out what this is going to look like in the future, or let's figure out what the questions are for this account. And then the other bucket, of course, is parenting if they have children. So we're working on the two things together. And the way I do it is I ask folks to meet for a couple of hours and then we go away to our separate corners to do more homework. The other homework is the emotional side of things. So you've got the business side where you're doing the research, making decisions, but then you've got the emotional side. And it's important to leave room for that, I think, so that you're making the best decisions possible, not jammed into an 8 hour day where you're feeling exhausted and you're making decisions under duress. So for my clients, we meet several times for 2 hour blocks or less if we don't need all the 2 hours. And then we usually come up with an agreement that really is very individualized and thorough, and they're ready to file.
And then you're leaving when that mediation is complete. You're leaving with a signed divorce decree.
Yeah, well, they're leaving with a signed mediation agreement. And then we can look at the court forms together. I can't fill them out for them, but I can talk to them about what goes where on the court forms. So they can take the court forms and the mediation agreement to the clerk of court's office to file an uncontested divorce. And then they get their hearing, and it usually sails right through because everything's already worked out. And then the judge signs the final decree.
Wow, these are like conversations that I wish I had a few years ago when I went through my divorce. And I imagine
Yeah.
everybody, it's like you find all this out too late. So that is our job to help educate people before
Yeah.
they throw themselves into this process.